Hey everyone, Jamie here from TechnicalCafe.com, and in this tutorial we're going to be talking about constructors in Java and how they're used to create an object of a class from the class blueprint when that class is instantiated. So we've actually seen constructors before, such as when you instantiate an object of a class, like class name, object name equals new class name. When you're using that, you're actually instantiating an object of a class using the constructor method. And we'll talk more about that in just a little bit, but let's take a look at what we have here. So we have bankaccount.java, which is a class that contains three variables: an int called account number, a string called account holder, and a double called balance, nothing else. And if we come over here to main.java, you'll notice that we have a main method here, and we have actually the instantiation of an object of bankaccount class. So let's take a look at this here. We have bankaccount, myaccount equals new bankaccount. And we know that this is the class name, this is the object name that we're giving it, and this here, this new bankaccount, we've probably talked about it a little bit in the past, but let's talk about it a little bit more in depth now. When you call this new bank account, what you're actually doing is calling the bank account class constructor. But you may ask, but there's no constructor in here. How are you calling it? Every class, regardless of whether you write a constructor or not, technically has a constructor method called the default constructor. And just a quick aside, constructors are often called constructor methods, probably because they have a very similar structure to a method, but they're technically not methods, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So anyway, back to this. When we say bankaccount myaccount equals new bank account, this is a call to the bank account constructor method, which actually creates and sets up the myaccount object of bank account class. So let's go over here to the bankaccount.java and let's write a constructor. Let's learn how to do that. And a constructor can be used for a variety of purposes. You can use parameters with constructors to set up a class before you actually get into it and stuff like that. So if we come over here to write a constructor, it's very similar again to how you would write a method, except you don't have a return type. Any constructor method is not going to have a return type. So let's go ahead and write a constructor for this bank account class. So we'll say public bank account, and any constructor method is going to have the same name as the class. If it's not the same name, it's not a constructor, and it won't work for these purposes. So we'll say public bank account and follow it with a set of parentheses here, or a parameter list, if you will. And then we'll follow that with a set of curly braces. And just like any method, it's gonna look very similar to a method. So that's it. That's a class constructor, and this is what's used to set up this bank account class. We don't really have much going on with it right now, so it's not really gonna do a whole lot for us, at least that we can see anyway. So if we go ahead and compile and run it again, you'll notice that nothing has changed, nothing appears on the terminal, things like that. So if we come over here to main.java, what we did was we called the bank account class constructor here, and what it did was set up this class according to the class blueprint. So we can then go ahead and access, for example, this account number variable. So we can say my account, or let's print it. So we'll say my account dot account number, and if we go ahead and compile and run, oops, that's debugger, you'll notice that we have our account number here, which was set up, this whole class was set up using the constructor. So let's say, for example, we want to add some parameters to our constructor. That's totally fine. You can feed things into the constructor within the parameter list, just like any method that you've written before. So let's go ahead and delete this account number here. Let's say that we want to have the program set this up for us. Let's say you can use like a scanner or something and get the user input. So we don't want to write this account number into our class. We want it to be done for us upon instantiation of the class. We can do that using a constructor. So let's go ahead and say we want an int, and we'll call it ACTNUM for account number. Let's call it ACCT. What we can do is then set up the account number equal to ACCTNUM. And let's actually go ahead and move this constructor method down here just to make it kind of more within convention. So what we have here is our variables, and we have our constructor down here, which is taking an int variable in as a parameter called account number, and then we're going to set the actual account number variable equal to the account number. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's say the account number is going to be, let's say 9876 for our account number. And let's go ahead and compile and run this. And notice that our account number is now set to 9876 because we take the constructor here we feed it in an account number here, and then we set the account number variable within our class equal to the account number fed into the constructor. So it seems a little confusing at first, but it's definitely, once you've done it a few times, it's not too bad. And just like any other, any method that you've written before, you can also have multiple parameter lists. You can take, for example, a string called ACT name for the account holder's name. We can delete this here and come back over here to our constructor. You'll notice that it's underlined because we didn't fill it out properly. And we'll just say John. So if we come over here, compile and run, you'll notice that, we didn't print John, that's why. System.out.println, my account, account holder. You'll notice that once we compile and run this, we will now have John, because we also didn't set it. So account holder equals ACT name. That's why it didn't work. So if we now compile and run it, you'll notice that we have John here. So this is how you go about using constructors in Java. They can be pretty powerful for doing things like this, especially if maybe you're taking in user input or you're getting input from a file and creating an object from it. That's how you can use constructors in Java. Feel free to play around with it. Remember that constructor methods or constructors don't have a return type, and it has to have the same exact name as the class. Otherwise, it's not a constructor. So thank you for watching, and have a good day.